Welcome to the Deep Dive Books channel, where we hope you find something valuable every day.
Let's continue with our discussion of Corey Keyes' Languishing. This is part 6 of our interpretation. Today, we're talking about the third path to flourishing, spiritual life. When Keyes refers to spiritual life, he means spiritual practices that may or may not be linked to religion, but the goal is always to reach a higher spiritual level. In the previous part, we talked about relationships, which are about our connections with society and others, highlighting social mattering. Today's discussion on spiritual life focuses on your connection with something bigger than yourself, particularly a higher force, emphasizing cosmic mattering. This isn't just a religious idea. Einstein, for instance, was not religious in any conventional sense, but he had a sense of awe for the universe. Once, a grieving father from New York, perhaps one who had lost a child, wrote to Einstein. In his reply, Einstein said, "A human being is a part of the whole, called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings, as something separate from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. The striving to free oneself from this delusion is the one issue of true religion, not to nourish it, but to try to overcome it, is the way to reach the attainable measure of peace of mind." This is what we often refer to as a cosmic perspective. We are small, but we are connected to the universe, and are part of a much larger whole. Having this awareness naturally brings a sense of belonging. For religious people and mystics, the something bigger isn't just a metaphor, but a real force, such as God. However, this distinction isn't crucial. According to Yuval Harari, what's imagined can be the most powerful thing, so you can treat spiritual practice as a way to connect to a greater power if that helps. Keyes isn't religious, but he has been influenced by Buddhism and has practiced yoga for many years. His book may seem disorganized at times, but if you read closely, his take on spiritual practices is clearer than most, and I believe it's worth explaining. The starting point of this spiritual path is inner peace, and the ultimate goal is to cultivate a character that resembles the divine. The most common form of spiritual practice is following a religion, be it Christianity, Buddhism, or any other. These religions seek to bring out the best in us: kindness, generosity, acceptance, while helping reduce negative traits like ego and self-centeredness. They teach us how to properly handle pain and suffering. When we talk about faith here, it doesn't mean making donations to a temple for good karma, or releasing animals into the wild when someone in your family is ill. True faith is about regulating your life according to the spiritual principles of your religion, and improving your thoughts and actions. If you can achieve this, you won't languish. Research shows that, when religion plays a strong role in someone's life, that person's sense of flourishing is high. A common pattern is that people in developed countries generally report high life satisfaction, but low life meaning, while those in poorer nations often have low life satisfaction, but a strong sense of meaning. Researchers attribute this, in large part, to the stronger presence of religion in less developed countries. It doesn't necessarily have to be organized religion. For example, in traditional Chinese culture, formal religion isn't as prominent, but ancestor worship is common, with many families maintaining ancestral shrines. This spiritual connection to one's ancestors can also provide a sense of flourishing. Research on Indigenous Canadians, primarily the Inuit, shows that those who continue to use their native language and preserve their culture tend to flourish, while those who lose their language see higher dropout and suicide rates, likely due to a lack of meaning in life. These practices can be considered basic forms of spiritual practice. When you have a spiritual anchor, your life gains meaning, your actions become more reliable, and you flourish more as a person. However, if you take spiritual practice seriously, these surface-level efforts might seem too shallow. But you don't need to become a monk or priest. You can engage in meaningful spiritual practices, even in everyday life. Keyes' spiritual system can be divided into 3 layers. The first layer is achieving tranquility through acceptance. At the most basic level, you must accept yourself. Maybe you tend to make mistakes, or maybe your emotions often get the better of you, leaving you feeling regretful and ashamed afterward. Don't be like that. Treat yourself like your best friend. Even if you mess up or lose control of your emotions, it's okay. You're still my good friend. Let's do better next time. This is called self-compassion. Being kind to yourself and offering yourself comfort first. Next is accepting what happens to you. Imagine you're on a flight, feeling exhausted, just wanting to sleep, but you end up sitting next to a mother with a crying baby. What do? Why can't these parents control their kids better? Why do things like this always happen to me? This is where stoicism comes into play. Control what you can control, and accept what you can't. What you can truly control is only yourself. Instead of seeing this situation as something happening to you, see it as happening around you. You just happen to be there, and you can choose how to respond. Maybe you can view this as a chance to practice patience, or even as an opportunity to engage with someone. The key is to respond with your deepest values, which always involves some form of kindness. Some researchers developed a method called acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT. We've mentioned this before when discussing David Wilson's This View of Life, Completing the Darwinian Revolution. Keyes notes that ACT helps people accept their negative experiences and choose the best way to respond. Let's say you and your colleagues have been working overtime for days and finally finish a report, only for your boss, at the last minute, to decide to rewrite it entirely. Your initial reaction will likely be frustration. But since you can't change the situation, you should accept it. Maybe immediately start figuring out how to revise the report, or try to understand your boss's perspective, or perhaps offer a suggestion. The point is not to let disappointment and frustration consume you. Receiving isn't about resisting head-on. It's about softening and diffusing the force, then responding with your deepest values. The second layer, achieving equanimity through meditation. We have discussed meditation many times. Simply put, it is a method for emotional control. Meditation practice requires you to focus on your breathing, gently letting go of any thoughts or emotions that arise. The goal is not the breathing itself, but the act of release. Negative emotions often have a stronger impact than positive ones, making it easy to become trapped in negativity, but meditation can liberate you. First, there is acceptance, followed by a gentle release, which allows negative emotions to gradually dissipate. Meditation primarily develops emotional leadership. Controlling your emotions, instead of being controlled by them. Next is selective focus, referred to in Buddhism as right attention or kind attention, which corresponds to the concept of mindfulness. Keyes states that we must be gatekeepers of our own minds. You can choose what enters your consciousness, influencing your thoughts and actions. For example, if you order a hot coffee at a cafe and receive a cold one, you might feel dissatisfied. Question is, should you focus your emotions on this disappointment or on the warm smile of the server who brought it? We can always choose to concentrate on the positive. This practice of meditation cultivates that ability. From a neural network training perspective, it allows you to decide what data you use to train yourself. Daily training can occur in your mind, rehearsing how to react to various situations. Mastering this skill naturally leads to effective emotional responses. If you can appropriately handle various situations, you embody the principle of moderation. However, meditation also has a more advanced application. Not merely responding passively to adverse situations, but proactively creating favorable ones. Keyes suggests that peace and chaos are two dimensions. The absence of violence, anger, and chaos does not equate to possessing tranquility and peace. Peace is a rare form of order that requires cultivation. Instead of waiting for others to create peace for you, why not take the initiative to create it for others? Using a popular saying, you can output order. How do you do this? In the 1930s, a prayer possibly attributed to Saint Francis of Assisi emerged in America, now known as the Prayer of Saint Francis. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. O Divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek, to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. And it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. The secret to outputting order lies within this prayer. You must know how to read it. Keyes explains, an instrument. This means you should not just be a passive listener. You must create the music you wish to hear. The essence of the prayer addresses difficult situations. We do not avoid negative emotions, but focus on positive and uplifting aspects. The prayer encourages us to direct our attention toward doing for others what we typically seek for ourselves. Love rather than being loved, comfort rather than being comforted, understanding rather than being understood. Because you can give from the supply side, you can output order, and in turn, you will receive. Many people practice yoga and meditation, but most merely go through the motions. Research indicates that participation in yoga has a similar impact on well-being as attending college, showing limited effectiveness. Few achieve the level of outputting order, and even that is not the highest accomplishment. The highest level of practice is transcending through connection. Some monks told Keyes that, if we imagine practice as climbing Mount Everest, meditation is akin to setting up a base camp along the way. Whenever you encounter difficulties, you can return to this base camp for rest, where you can instantly regain peace and strength. While we use meditation to relax, observe ourselves better, and treat others without judgment. These are all valuable. But practice is not about remaining at the base camp and being a happy person. The goal of practice is to reach the summit. The summit represents transcendence, where you are no longer an independent self. You merge with something bigger than yourself. Perhaps nature, the entire world, or the divine within you, such as God. Obliterating the boundaries between you. This represents the highest sense of belonging. It is no longer that God is overseeing you. Rather, you are a part of God, or you are God. You need not be modest about this, as everyone possesses Buddha nature, which is the potential for enlightenment. Keyes mentioned that, when he began his practice, he sought to open his heart and invite a higher power, such as God, into himself. Now, he feels that practice is more about allowing the God within him to emerge to better serve humanity. To me, this is the feeling of becoming divine. How can one find this feeling? It comes from connecting more deeply. As we recently discussed on our channel, when you see magnificent mountains and rivers, that grandeur evokes a sense of awe. This feeling arises when facing something greater and deeper than yourself that you can still connect with. Hearing a particularly exquisite piece of music, or appreciating a great work of art, can also evoke this sense of awe. What you need to do is absorb their spirit and merge with them. Such a spiritual life is far superior to watching a TV show. TV shows are often poorly conceived and have low ceilings. By going out and exploring real things, whether the mysteries of the universe or great artistic imaginings, you encounter high potential, allowing your spiritual core to grow step by step, possibly reaching the level of the divine. That's about my understanding. For insights on what lies beyond, you would need to ask someone who practices. This concludes today's content. In the next part, we will discuss the mindset of daily living.
If you feel there is value in this, please like, subscribe to this channel, and leave your thoughts or suggestions in the comments section. Let's grow together and read more good books.